Hey guys, okay, so looking at the Chapter 7 review, I wanted to take a look at, kind of review a little bit of vocabulary before we jumped right into all the stuff. So just a little bit of idea of some of the new words we learned. So I got this scenario that I made up. I said, so the question that we're trying to investigate here is, how much cash does the average Valencia student have on them at any given time? Right? So we investigated. We went around and we asked 300 students, how much cash do you have on you right now? And we've recorded all the information, and we're going to take that information and somehow estimate what the average student in all of Valencia, how much cash they have in their pocket. So there's four big things that are going on here. Four big groups of things that are happening. First off, we can talk about the population, and then a sample. Okay, so in this example, right, the population of interest here, the population would be, well, if we look at our question, the amount of cash that an average Valencia student has. That's our population. A Valencia student. The population would be all students at Valencia. So all the students of Valencia, that's our population. We're trying to figure out something about, that's the big group, the big pictures right there. The sample we used was the 300 students that we asked. So our sample was our 300 students. Right. We can actually talk to all 300 of them. We actually communicated with them. We interacted with all 300 of these students. And so we can actually figure out something about them. The population, we didn't talk to all of them. This is all the population we talked to. We talked to this part of the population, and from this sample, we're going to be able to say something, make some kind of conclusion about the population, even though we didn't talk to everybody. And so we might be a little bit off, but still anyhow, we'll be able to use this to say something about this. Okay. Now, when we say, okay, we're going to talk to them and figure something out, let's split this in half here. So over here, this is stuff that we're actually going to figure out. Here, this is stuff that we're going to kind of estimate. Or we're going to make an inference about. From the sample, we can take this 300 students and we can say, okay, we can make a big list. We can say, okay, this person had $5, this person had $7, this person had $24, whatever it was, and we can come up with an average. And that average would be an example of a statistic. A statistic describes some part of the sample. Okay, so our statistic in this case would be the average amount of cash for these 100 students. So average cash for the 300 students in the sample. Alright, so that's the average cash of 300 students in the sample. In this case, the statistic we're looking at is a mean. It's a sample mean, so it would be X bar. So we found X bar in this one, the average cost in this case. So the statistic that we're using to describe the sample is a mean. It's an average amount, and so that's why we have our sample mean going on. Okay, and then now what we're trying to kind of estimate is this thing down here, is the percent of the population, or I'm sorry, is the average amount of cash that the average person in the population has. That would be something that describes the population, and that's called a parameter. A parameter is something that describes the population. In this case, the parameter would be the average cash that any Valencia student might have. So, average cash any Valencia student has. Right? In this case, we were talking about a mean, so we had the sample mean in our sample. For a parameter, we would have the population mean, which you remember was the mu So it was like this U with the little tail in the front. All right, so that was our parameter that we're looking at. So hopefully this kind of clears things up between the 4 different words here. Remember, the population is the big picture, and the thing we measure about the population was the parameter. The sample was a smaller group of the population or a subset of the population, that the book will sometimes say. And what we measure about our sample is our statistic. And we can be pretty sure about, or we can be sure about what our statistic is. We know for a fact what the average of our sample was. So our sample mean is, is 100% correct. We can figure out exactly what the average of our sample was. It's our parameter that we're kind of fuzzy about because we didn't talk to everybody. So we know we're gonna have like a range for this, but we'll look at that here in a little bit. So hopefully this will help us out to the first couple questions, and then now let's move on to some more stuff that's more fun.